Hi everyone, it's Anna here at SAS. Today I'm going to be talking about SAS data preparation in SAS Viya. So within SAS Viya, you have many data management capabilities that are built in. However, if you license SAS data preparation, you get some additional data management features and capabilities. We're going to be looking at SAS Data Explorer and SAS Data Studio. Within SAS Data Explorer, this is where you can ingest and access your tables and files. So this is where you can connect to your data sources and then load data into memory in CAS. CAS stands for Cloud Analytics Services, and this is our runtime environment. So this is where we're going to do our data wrangling, data processing, and work with our in-memory tables. In SAS Data Explorer, we can also assess our data structure and the content of our tables. So we can do something called run a profile. We can profile our data. When we profile our data, we get column-specific statistics. So for each column, we get things like uniqueness, mean, median, and mode. We can get some statistics about the data that we have to work with. If you have SAS Data Preparation licensed, you get some additional statistics. So you get things like frequency distribution, some descriptive metrics, and pattern distribution. And what's really neat about these is you can really learn where you need to standardize and cleanse your data. For example, if you have a state column, by looking at the pattern distribution, you can see if states are entered written out as North Carolina or as two-character abbreviations like NC. Now, once you've explored your data in SAS Data Explorer, hence the name, you can go over to SAS Data Studio to transform and cleanse your data. So this is where we do our heavy lifting of our data preparation. We can create new data and really structure our data into the desired format for analytical reports and for modeling. Within SAS Data Studios, we create data preparation plans. Data preparation plans work with our various source data, and then they store the transforms that we want to run on that data. We can then save data preparation plans to access later or share with other SAS users. The really cool feature of data preparation plans that is new to SAS Data Studio 2.5 is the suggestions feature. Suggestions can work with your source data and suggest possible transforms that you could then include in a data preparation plan. So for example, let's look at this customer name column. Using the suggestions feature, a series of models are run against this column and the data is analyzed, and then possible transforms are suggested to you. So for example, we might get the remove duplicates transform or the standardize or parse transform, and then we can choose which ones we want to include in our data preparation plan. I think suggestions are super cool for a couple of reasons. One, your data preparation process will be much faster because these models analyze your data and suggest possible transforms to you. You don't have to do quite as much exploring of your data. And two, it's very possible the suggestions could give you a transform that you wouldn't think to use normally. So it kind of expands your data preparation process as well, while still making it really efficient. So in this demo, we're going to look at data preparation in SAS Viya and how we can utilize suggestions. Okay, so we are signed into SAS Viya as Christine. Christine is an admin user, so she has admin privileges, and we're currently looking at SAS Drive. SAS Drive is kind of like a landing page or a home page for SAS Viya. It's where you can see the content you've created and you can share content with other users. So as Christine, I'm going to go up to the top left and click on Show List of Applications, and then I'm going to click on Manage Data, and this will take us to SAS Data Explorer. In SAS Data Explorer, we have 3 tabs: Available, Data Sources, and Import. The Available tab, if we had any in-memory tables, those would be located here. So this is where we could see the data that was available, data that was in memory. If we click on data sources, we can see the CAS servers we have. So right now we have 1 CAS server configured. And if we click one arrow down, we can see the CAS libs that we already have set up. Now these are global CAS libs. We can see that by hovering over this icon, but the snowflake icon does indicate global CAS libs, which means that if we as Christine sign in and out of Viya, if we close out of our internet browser, these CAS libs are still configured and set up. So these are pointing to various data sources. We're going to create a new CAS Lib connection. So I'm going to click on this connect icon here, and the connection settings window will open. I'm going to call this connection SAS Data because we're going to connect to some SAS data sets. And it is going to be a file system-based connection and a path source type, but notice we do have other types of connections that we can create. So we could connect to an Oracle database and pull in tables from that database. I'm then going to click persist this connection beyond current session. What that means is we want this to be a global CAS Lib instead of a session-based CAS Lib. Again, a global CAS Lib would mean that even if I, as Christine, sign out of SAS, this will still be there. We can still access this CAS Lib. And then this is path-based, so I'm going to give the path on my CAS server, and the path is just /sgf. I'm going to click Test Connection. This is to ensure that that path is a path we can reach and access, and the connection was successful, so I'm going to click Save. Over here on the left, under Data Sources, we now have this SAS Data CAS Lib that is pointing to some path-based data, and if we click the arrow down, we can see the SAS7 BDAT files that are located in that location. All right, I'm going to right-click on Bank Customers, and I'm going to select Add to Import. Add to Import for a table loads this SAS dataset into memory, and it creates a SAS HDAT file. So there are two ways you can load a file into CAS memory. We can do Add to Import, or we could also just do Load. Add to Import makes us also create that SAS HDAT file. So by clicking that, I'm going to get this window here for the item we're importing. We are going to call it bank_customers, and we're going to leave that target location as the default public CAS Lib. I'm going to select Replace File. So if for some reason we already had a SAS HDAT file, bank_customers, we're going to replace and update that. And then here you can see all the various formats we can work with. We're going to use SAS HDAT, but we could create a different file. So again, this is going to load data into memory in CAS and also create that SAS HDAT file. So I'm going to click Import Item. And then notice our import was successful. If we come over here on the Add, we can see all the different types of data sources that we can import into CAS. So that's really cool. All right, so let's click back on the Available tab. And now we can see that we have bank_customers as an in-memory data set. And that lightning bolt does indicate that it's an in-memory table. If I click on the little Info Properties button, we can see it's called bank_customers, and we can see when we imported this table and the default, or not default, but the location, the CAS Lib we decided to use, which was the default of public. If I click on bank_customers, in the middle, I'm going to get some information about my data and my memory table. So again, this is where I can do the exploring of SAS Data Explorer. The first thing we see is this Details tab, which gives us some column names and data types. Over on the far right, it gives us information about the actual table, so how many columns and rows exist. If I click on Sample Data, I can get a sample of my data. By default, it's going to sample 100 rows of data, but it can sample up to, I believe, 5,000 rows of data. So you can see our data. Already I noticed that my state column has some interesting entries that we're going to have to do some standardizing of. Same with maybe the customer name. It looks like our casing could be an issue. Casing could be something we might want to address. Now, if I click on Profile, this is what I was talking about, where we can get some profile information. We can learn some about some column statistics, kind of explore our data further. We can run Profile or run Profile and save. If we do run Profile and save, it will create a table with these statistics that we could further work with. We're just going to run Profile. I just want to do the exploratory phase. So this is, again, it's going through all those columns, assessing for statistics like mean, median, and mode. We're also going to get some frequency distributions and pattern distributions. Okay, so the first thing we see is for each column, we can see uniqueness. So if we look at customer ID, notice it is not 100% unique. So if this was something we were going to use as a primary key, it looks like we have some duplicates. So we're going to address that later. And then we can also see means, medians, and modes. If we want, we can explore one particular column a little bit further. So I'm going to click on the state column name right here. And this will give me the metrics for the individual state column. So you can see we have a mode, minimum, and maximum. We can also click the down arrow beside frequency distribution. And first thing I notice is CA seems to be the most frequently occurring entry. But notice we have California written out right here as well. So those two columns would need to be combined, but that's not going to happen until we standardize our data. We can also look at pattern distribution. So again, we can kind of already see this from the frequency distribution, but we can see that a lot of entries are written as capital 2-character entries, but then we also have entries that are written out in the long form, like California written out. So we're going to need to do some standardizing. Okay, so that's just for that individual column. I'm going to click on the report up here to go back and see the overall profile. And then I do want to show you in the right pane, we have this, like, it looks like a clock almost, and if you hover over it, it says versions. You can run multiple profiles on this in-memory table, so we might do some manipulation and standardizing of our data and run another report to see how metrics have changed. So kind of neat, you can have multiple versions. All right, in this top right, I'm going to click the down arrow beside actions, and I'm going to go to prepare data. So that will take us to SAS Data Studio. It's going to open up a plan, a data preparation plan, and it's going to use bank_customers as our data source. All right, so we can see bank_customers was selected as our data source in this plan. You can see a preview of the data over here. On the right, you can see some of the available transforms we have. These data quality transforms are because we have SAS Data Preparation. They're really cool. But again, you have a lot of different transforms that you can work with here. Now, we could manually just add these transforms for each particular column, but I think it'd be neat to see what SAS Data Studio suggests. So I'm going to click on this suggestions icon, and then I'm going to click Get Suggestions. Now, this was a little anticlimactic. The very first time that you try and get suggestions, you do have to register your models. So I'm going to click on, we have this note here that says no models are registered. I'm going to click Register Models. And then this Models window will appear, and we can choose to register models. All right, so here's some of the models that we have. So some of these are going to take transforms that are already available, such as the parsing transform. Others might suggest that you impute columns and generate some code. But again, these are the models that are going to be run on your columns to assess what kind of transforms that you should possibly use. So our models are registered. I'm going to click Close, and then I'm going to click on Get Suggestions again. Now this time it's going to go through all of our columns and populate a list of possible transforms we might want to use. And wow, you can see we have a lot. So I know that the state column was a little wonky. It could use some standardizing. So I'm going to search for state up here in the suggestions icon, and notice the standardized transform was suggested to us. So I'm going to double click that, and that's going to add it to my plan. So it's adding the standardized transform to my plan. Okay, and the source column is state. I want to verify that. The locale is English United States, and the definition is state province full name. So this is using the SAS quality knowledge base. to standardize our data, basically we have a defined locale, which is based on a geography and a language. So within English United States, there are certain definitions that you would have. For example, we have states. So we have the state definition, and then we have a variety of things we can do with a state definition, such as standardize it. Same with, say, an address. We in the US will write addresses differently than you might write them in Sweden or even in another English-speaking country. So the definitions that are available are dependent on the locale. And then within each definition, you have different things that you can do, such as standardizing, parsing, etc. So this is the state column. It is for English United States, and we want to use the state province full name definition. And there is an abbreviated definition as well if we wanted the 2-character name. Now I'm going to click replace source file because there's no need to keep the messy state column. Why not just go ahead and update the data? And then if you notice right here, remember we're doing all this data wrangling and manipulation in memory. So right now we've added a transformation to our plan, but we haven't run the plan. So up in the top middle, it says the session table is not current to the plan. Run the plan to update the table, and you have this half-filled circle. That means bank_customers has not been updated to reflect this transform. So I'm going to click run, and it's going to standardize our state column. Okay, so over on the far right, you can see actually this first transform in our plan, and it's got the nice green check mark because we've applied it. We now have a green check mark here. The session table is current to the plan. And looking at our state column right here, we can see that it is nice and standardized. So all the states are written out with nice proper casing. Cool. So I'm going to X out of this filter in our suggestions window, and then I'm going to click Get Suggestions again because it will regenerate suggestions based on our most current session table. Okay, and I'm going to search now for the standardized suggestion and see. So it's suggesting a lot of columns could be standardized. I'm not going to take you through all of those, but I am going to add a couple more. So I'm going to add the standardized address and standardized customer name. And you can add more than one transform. You don't have to add each individual transform and then run the plan. So I added them both. I'm going to, over on the right under the plan, click on the second standardize and make sure it is customer name. And we're using the locale English United States and the name definition. So again, this is the algorithm that will be used to standardize customer name. I'm going to click replace source column. And then I'm going to just go ahead and configure the third standardize as well. So address, English United States address, and replace source column. Then I'm going to click run so that both of these standardized transforms are applied to our data. Awesome. Okay, so if we look, customer name is now properly cased. And then same with address. It's been standardized. What's neat is things like these cardinal directions like southwest and south, and then street or southeast 21st Street. Those things that you see on an address, the address definition has a very particular algorithm for how to standardize those different entities of the address. All right, so over here, I'm going to regenerate suggestions, and then I'm going to be adding a parsing suggestion for the customer name. Because right now we have customer name all in one column. Maybe I want a first name and a last name. So I'm going to click in here in the filter and search for parsing. And notice we have the customer name transform suggested for parsing. Okay. So when we parse a name, we're going to create tokens, or we're parsing it into tokens. 2 tokens you can think of are first name and last name, but obviously you might have a middle name or a prefix on a name. So there are available tokens over here on the left we are just going to add the given name token and the family name token. So first name and last name. And then I'm going to click on options for new columns. And I'm going to rename these because these are going to be really long, and I'm also going to make the length of these particular columns shorter. So I'm going to call given name, let's just go ahead and call it first name. And family name, I'm going to call last name. And then I'm going to make these both 50 characters long. And click OK. All right, and now when I run this, I'm going to have two new columns, first name and last name, with our customer name parsed out. All right, and these appear at the beginning of our data set. So now we can see we have this first name, last name column instead of, we also still have the customer name column, which has it all together, but here we have it separated into two columns. All right, I'm going to generate suggestions one more time. And remember we said that customer ID column could not be used as a primary key because there were some duplicate rows of data. Let's add the remove duplicates transform. Now I want to show you over here, I'm going to click on the properties for the results table. Right now we have 483 rows of data, but we're going to remove some duplicates. I don't want to remove duplicates based on duplicate values across all columns. I want to do it based on a particular column, and we're going to use cust ID. So if there are any duplicate values in this column, it'll remove the duplicates. And I'm going to click Run. Now notice over here on the right, my number of rows is now 481, so two duplicate rows were removed. And now customer ID could be used as a primary key. I'm going to click on the plan, so this first icon here, and notice everything is good. Our session table is current. All of our transforms have been added, but maybe you wanted to remove duplicates first. That might be something you do, for example, if you had a lot of duplicates. Go ahead and get rid of them before you do all your other standardizing of your data. We can actually take this remove duplicates transform, and by hitting this up arrow, we can move it in the plan. So I decided I want to do that thing very first, and then I want to do everything else. Notice we will need to rerun our plan so that the session table reflects the plan and everything is up to date, but it's really easy to move around transforms, and that is actually a newer feature of SAS Data Studio. Okay, so this is as much standardizing as I want to do right now. I'm going to save the plan, and I'm going to save the transformed table as well. So I'm going to click on this options icon and click Save As. I do want to point out, notice new job is currently grayed out. I'm going to click on Save As. And this is going to allow us to save the plan and target table. I'm going to call the plan Cleanse Bank Customers Using Suggestions. And then I'm going to call the table, the new table we're creating, bank underscore customers cleansed. All right, so we're going to save this as a SAS HStat file, but again, we could save it as other file types. And then we're saving our data plan in our folder. So I'm going to click Save. And now that we have saved this plan, I can actually schedule a job from this plan file. So if I were to click here, if I want, I could create a new job that would do standardizing. You could basically run this plan file at a certain time or for other reasons based on other conditions. All right, now I'm going to click this Actions. I'm going to hover over it. I'm going to go to Save Table and Explore and Visualize. So that's a really neat feature there that you can go straight from SAS Data Studio to Actions Save Table, Explore, and Visualize, and it's going to open up SAS Visual Analytics with our saved table. So we can do some visual reporting and analytics on that data that we have just processed. All right, so it's opening up a page in Visual Analytics and loading our cleansed data. If I click on the suggest icon here, we actually get some suggested visuals that we could use with this data. So I think that's really neat. For example, let's drag this frequency one over. We can see the frequency of occupations. And actually, first thing I notice here is law enforcement at the bottom doesn't have a T, and law enforcement does. These should probably be grouped together, so it looks like there's some more standardizing we need to do. Now that's all I'm actually going to show you though. That was a lot. I'm going to click back on Share and Collaborate to take me back to SAS Drive. There's our lovely data preparation plan. And that is it for me. So I hope you feel like you learned something, feel like you're ready to use the suggestions feature in SAS Data Preparation. And thank you so much for watching. Check out more really cool tutorials on our SAS Users YouTube channel. Thanks. Talk to you later.